balancing it. Mark, you're not telling him how to balance it. Look, he's gonna.
No, get off. Okay. Why did you get on like this? That made me so nervous. You have to balance your feet.
And then
Even I knew that.
Like on the
in the
back,
middle. Yeah.
You gotta lean back.
You're gonna like fall off like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you in the middle.
Yes,
But
balance.
basically start.
You're so lucky you didn't fall.
It started out, it was fine, you know. I was actually really happy to be at home all the time and not be at school because germs are terrifying for me.
You know, I didn't think it would spiral out into what it became. So I really didn't think much. You know, you hear about this stuff pretty often and usually it doesn't really spread.
COVID-19 has definitely affected a lot of people, and having to go into quarantine and having a lot of businesses shut down for a short period of time, but we don't know how long that period of time is going to be, and only having essential businesses open is crazy.
COVID-19, or coronavirus, has deeply impacted our daily lives. It has forced us to live a new normal indoors, affecting our old normal, which in most cases took place outdoors or in social settings. Small things usually taken for granted, such as going out to eat, or stopping at a grocery store, or even shaking someone's hand, have all changed to fit this new normal. Not to mention, we're all encouraged to stay stuck in our houses until further notice from government officials. Well, then we try to live the lives we lived outdoors from inside. Today we're going to hear from some individuals on how much their lives have changed by this horrific and tragic pandemic. Hear their stories.
COVID-19 has definitely affected a lot of people, and having to go into quarantine and having a lot of businesses shut down for a short period of time, but we don't know how long that period of time is going to be, and only having essential businesses open is crazy. I'm beyond grateful that my family is okay. We're going by. My parents are teachers, so they are able to work online, and I'm very grateful for that. But I wish I could do more to help those who can't afford to not have a job, who have to go and work but not be able to because of quarantine and they're not an essential business. With COVID, we have to be careful. We have to take those safety precautions. Now that we have the social distancing and having to wear gloves and a mask, that's all helpful. But during the beginning, when it was a time of questioning what was going to happen, those questions were still in the air, but people were losing their jobs and not knowing whether or not they were going to have a home next week, next month, you know? So it has definitely impacted people.
Hi, I'm Hazel Moss. I'm a physical therapist here in North Highlands, California. I've been in practice for over 20 years, and I established a home-based business because I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and it was doing very well until COVID hit. Hi, how are you doing today? I was just calling in to see how you're feeling and wanting to go over some exercises with you again. I had calls from my clients who within the week were calling in to cancel, and my sons also were let out of school and had to do virtual learning. So my practice closed March 17th of 2020. And then I switched over to doing telehealth, which is through the Zoom and videoing clients. It's been a unique experience in that I've never thought I would shift over from being more hands-on to having to be on the camera. So let me show you a couple of more exercises we can work on. So you're going to take your hand over your ear, and then you're just going to pull your head to one side and see if you can hold that for 5 seconds. How do I feel about it all is it's been a change. It's been a new experience, having to learn something new, especially being in practice for so long, doing the same method, and now switching over to virtual. It's also been a little frustrating because I didn't really have time to plan out what I was going to do, or didn't realize that I'd be having to practice in this way. There was no warning about the state of this situation, just kind of being heard secondhand through clients. And I felt that maybe we should have heard this through more official pathways. So here I am today doing virtual through Zoom, and it's been an extraordinary experience.
How has quarantine affected your family? My brother wasn't really following the rules. My little brother, he just kept trying to go out with his friends. I stayed inside for 2 months straight. My dad, his work was affected quite a bit, but he still had work because he's a truck driver. So I still technically had work because I do DoorDash. I don't know, my mom got bored after like a few months and then started hanging out with her friends, to my disapproval. How do you keep busy? Well, and then it's supposed to cut to like all the random shit I don't know, I didn't really do much. Like, I slept. My sleep schedule got even worse. It was already bad to begin with. Beer's a lot of fun. Spent like probably $1,000 on alcohol in the first month. I went on a credit card. The impact on seniorities. So this is very interesting because I found out that seniorities. Did I say seniorities? Yeah. Oh my god. I found out that minorities are actually, especially African Americans, are actually affected far more by the virus. They actually die more by the virus than other ethnic groups. And the reason for that, it has everything to do with urban development and housing. These places that produce a lot of pollution were often areas where minorities were pushed into. And because of that, minorities are actually, they get like fucking lung diseases and problems breathing at a much higher rate because of the pollutants in the areas that they live in. And as a result, they're more susceptible. So something like COVID-19 affects minorities at a much higher rate, at least in terms of lethal, like how lethal it is. So it's depressing. It's kind of fucked up, isn't it? I think it's really dumb how some people are politicizing it, like the protests because you can't get a fucking haircut. Bitch, I haven't gotten a haircut in months. I don't give a shit. I think it's ridiculous. It's not like a left or right issue. It's a virus. It doesn't give a fuck what your politics are. And do you support the president's decisions to lighten social... No! He's a dumbass. And it's fucking stupid, dude. You see people go on like news networks. There's one on Fox News where this guy, I think he's a CEO of something. He's basically like, fuck, I don't remember who it was, but he basically said, I think your grandparents wouldn't mind sacrificing their life for our economy. Like, what the fuck? Because it hurts his bottom line. That's all he cares about. And that's ridiculous. It's a fucking virus. How do you work or go to school? How has that changed? Well, I can't really go to school anymore, right? So we're just doing online classes, and it's fun. It's nice. I'm kind of an introvert, so it's great. I prefer that. I take that back. I do not prefer that for acting classes. It's the worst. It fucking sucks doing it from home. It sucks. Update. It is almost 10 p.m. and I am finally done playing video games all day and surfing the internet. Now I'm gonna go get beer and work on my computer. Yeah.
Recording.
Losing glasses.
Okay, ready? Okay.
This is kind of awkward. Hi, my name is Nolan Moss Goldsby, and this is my quarantine experience. So during quarantine, obviously school's been a little different. This little corner back here is like my entire school. Our school kind of off and on would say, you know, we're gonna try hybrid schedule thing in like January or in a few months or whatever. Then things just keep getting worse, and then, you know, things kind of stay the same. Then junior year started about early August, and then, well, I'm doing school like right here. You know, it kind of sucks. Things are a little different. I miss people. I miss my friends. We go on like Disney Plus and we do like these little group watch sessions, I guess. Like we watch, we watch Disney Plus together. Sometimes we meet up on Wednesdays and we hang out on Zoom and everything like that when we don't have school. Junior prom, that's pretty much blown. I play saxophone. I'm in a band. I finally got into the level 3 class that I wanted to, and we're supposed to actually go to Disneyland this year and play at Disneyland. That's not gonna happen. I haven't played with my bandmates like at all, so that kind of sucks. They talk about a virtual concert, but you know, let's get that kind of thing together, you know.
Just play.
Okay. In terms of school, trying to figure things out kind of on my own. I'm a little bit more independent now. Teachers aren't as much of an easy resource as they used to be. It gets a little stressful. Sometimes it's a lot, but for the most part, it's something new. It's something to look into. You wiggled it.
Yes.
You wiggled it. Overall, I think everybody's a little stressed out with this because no one really knows where it's gonna go. I think there's things to look up to. It's always something to be grateful for. I started doing things that I just didn't have time to do before all this. All I can really say is, stay safe, stay healthy, keep your head.
Hello there, my name is Alana I. Smith. I am a freshman at Howard University, but I'm going to be talking about my senior experience during this pandemic. So basically, way back in February, I was in Chicago and I was for a college tour. I was on my way back home, and there's somebody who was having this breakdown, this condition where they're vomiting and it has snot and everything, and my mom and the stranger thought he had the coronavirus. So it wasn't until March that I realized, okay, this is actually serious, because it got to a point where, the Thomas Charter School teachers were talking about school shutdowns, right? And, really went from a 2-week shutdown to a month, and then to ending the rest of my senior year virtually. And honestly, I wasn't happy at my high school, especially, I should say specifically my senior year, right? And the only thing I was looking forward to was graduation, because that's one of the most significant moments of my life. I was gonna have family travel from the East Coast to visit. It was gonna be a beautiful, gathering, and moment, celebration, but we had to do a drive-through graduation party, right? And it was definitely devastating. It was definitely devastating. But honestly, I made the best out of it. I've been making the best out of it, using my time productively and just, trying to maintain this creative space. But yeah, so like I said, I'm at Howard now. But 2020 is definitely a year for the books for sure.
So what has quarantine been like for me? Well, when it started out, it was fine, I was actually really happy to be at home all the time and not be at school, because germs are terrifying for me, and the fact that there's a virus going around that we don't have a vaccine for is pretty terrifying. So I was actually okay with the fact that schools closed and things. I was really sad though, because a cafe that I did work at for 14 months, and that had been around for 27 years, closed because of the pandemic. And that was really heartbreaking. It was one of the cutest places I've been. I loved that place. It was a little mom and pop shop, and it's gone because they couldn't get the help that they needed to keep the business open. So what do I think about Trump's decision to end the quarantine and let people go out again and let businesses reopen? I am very against that. We've been open for, a week and a half now, 2 weeks, and the cases have just skyrocketed. And people aren't wearing masks. They're supposed to be wearing masks, and nobody's listening, and it's ridiculous. And I have a friend in Spain. She's an exchange student that we've had for the last few summers, and they were under an extreme quarantine for several months, and they were not allowed outside. It was very strict, but they've got it under control now, and we don't have it under control, and they're opened up now, but Trump's trying to reopen the US, and we're just not in a place where we can do that yet. It's insane, and I really worry that they're going to put us under quarantine again. And we're getting so close to the start of the new school year. My sister's supposed to be starting high school. I'm supposed to be going to a university. Like, that's not going to happen if they let this just keep running rampant as it is. It really kind of sucks though, because for me at least, I'm 20. So I graduated high school 2 years ago, and I was really excited to finally be able to go off to university. I want to travel, I want to act, I want to make films, I want to do all these things, and I stayed in Sacramento for 2 years so that I could save money and go to community college, and I was set to transfer this fall. So in September, I'm supposed to go to Portland to go to school, and honestly, I don't know if it's going to happen at this point. It really sucks because I think I waited 2 years to finally be able to leave, and then I can't. I don't want to be stuck here for another 2 years. I don't want to miss my one chance to go to a university just because people won't stay home and won't social distance, and we're gonna go under another quarantine, I'm sure of it. Governor Gavin Newsom is already talking about putting people back in quarantine, and it just sucks. It's not been all bad though. Thankfully I like my family, and we have a house that's got enough space that we can get away from each other sometimes. So it's not been too crazy. There haven't been any crazy fights between me and my sister. She's pretty fun. I like her. Yeah. I would show the camera around, but my room is an absolute wreck. Going into this, you think that now that we have time, we'll clean the house and it's gonna be really nice and stuff, but actually no. My room looks worse now than it ever has, and I've decided to relocate to the living room, so now most of the work and things that I do is just the time I spend in the living room instead of in my bedroom, because it's a mess and I don't even like looking at it. But it would take a lot of effort to clean.
Hey, my name is Michelle Del Cruz, and this is how quarantine went for me. I learned to make dalgona whipped coffee, and I stood next to a flashbang. Like everyone else, when I first heard of COVID, I thought it wasn't serious. I can't get vaccines, but I thought it was gonna be like the swine flu, which freaked everyone out when I was 8 years old. But I wasn't infected then, and I thought I would be safe now. But in time, the virus came quickly and the cases were lethal. I was slowly getting more aware that if I carried the asymptomatic version of the disease, I might be the one who brought death to my family's front door. At this time, I noted Ahmaud Arbery had been murdered. My family is entirely made up of people in the medical field, registered nurses and phlebotomists. So the second deaths started rising, I saw the exhaustion set in and their fear rise that they would contaminate me or my grandparents. We wouldn't go outside at first, but I quickly shoved that rule aside to visit my second family, who weren't leaving but would expand the contamination web by a lot. Truthfully, I was at my lowest before quarantine hit, so I didn't feel an oncoming depressive episode by the time it started because I was already in the middle of one. Physically, I'd be tired and restless at the same time. I was purposeless and I struggled to take my eyes off of my 5-inch phone screen. I wasn't in school because I took a semester break while I pulled myself together from being kicked out and invited back. Yeah, that's another story. But my job had also furloughed all of its associates to protect investors' capital, so I wasn't working either. The economy took a small recession while everything went into quarantine, and I had nothing to do. Eventually, I got into the mood where things slowed down, and I started to like how collectively everyone was exactly where I was. They could understand why it was so hard for me to go to school since I graduated high school. I learned to cook boba, and make new drinks, desserts. I didn't feel like the weight of the world was on me anymore because I knew everyone else was in the same spot. I definitely had beliefs on how the US should have conducted itself while other countries were taking the virus seriously, but I couldn't bring myself to care about anything. Then came the murder of Breonna Taylor. The Trump administration hadn't been buying tests and implementing proper procedures, so quarantine was the only thing starting to reduce deaths. And by that point, we only did social distancing. It wasn't proven by Western doctors that masks would slow the spread, even if Asian doctors had recommended it well before they did. After it was proven, there were still protests about opening the country again, and they weren't wearing masks and they weren't distancing, and they would stop traffic so that medical professionals couldn't get to their jobs. Note that when we reopened, people started partying that it was like spring break and cases were on the rise again. Essential jobs were kept up because there were no rent forgiveness, and everyone who received unemployment checks still weren't getting the economic support they need, but big corporations were. Anyways, after some of my work colleagues were called back to our store where we worked at, and the store was barely keeping standard of COVID precaution, they were threatened to be fired for enforcing the mask ordinance that was recently declared by Governor Newsom. And then came the murder of George Floyd, and the movement woke up. People were flooding the streets with masks all over the country in all 50 states to protest police brutality. There was looting, there was peace, there was ignorance, there were people posting everywhere on social media. There was virtually a blackout, and a literal blackout, of everything except Black Lives Matter, and it started conversations everywhere. But in the streets, people were shot with rubber bullets and tear gas, medical supplies were being destroyed, water was being destroyed, statues were taken, police precincts were set on fire, and our government so far had taken no action. So in the middle of all these protests, where others were dying because of police retaliation, me and my work went on strike. They organized a walkout against management. We declared our intentions to the management. We picketed outside of Arden Fair Mall, and we got a state worker to go in and chastise management at our store and the security at Arden Mall. They issued a formal complaint from the state. We also released a document to the press. It was not released, but we were invited to speak at City Council. We declined when management caved, and we tentatively returned to work to observe the changes. So all in all, I just think quarantine revealed who I really am as a person. I struggle with my talents because I have personal issues that just come into my lifetime to time, but I do find myself allying with a passion for social justice and for standing up for what's right. Quarantine might have stopped me and my friends from just being normal, stupid teenagers at the end of my 18th year, but it brought us closer in a way that only a global traumatic event could. And I think it also could be said for people I don't even know, because we both share the same fears when we go out in public. But making boba was actually one of the best skills that I learned, so that is what I will pass on to you guys. Have a nice quarantine.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a swab done before?
No.
Okay, so my name's Ashley. I'll be doing your swabs. You can pull your mask down just to uncover your nose. Perfect. It might cause your eyes to water a little bit. It might cause you to cough, but it shouldn't be painful and it should be quick. Doing great, doing great, doing great. Breathe. Okay, come on up. Perfect. Great job. Leave there and come on over.
2020 was definitely a wild ride. However, even through our darkest times, we still found ways to make the best of it. But I believe quarantine has taught us an important lesson: not to take things for granted. Because of quarantine, we've been able to learn new things we never had the time for, bond with family members, and finally take the time to focus on ourselves for a change.
And I used that negative feeling that I had and turned it into a positive. And now I'm a graduate, now I'm going to UCLA. So I would say, like, don't let anything stop you or turn you away from what you think, your dreams or whatever you have. But yeah, just thank you to everybody for all the support and love. And I just gained a family. So.
We bought a year's supply of toilet paper, tissue paper. We got toilet paper in here too. Just in case we can't go out. It's crazy how this is now, how valuable it is. Yeah. This is valuable now.
I don't think you can sum up 2020 in just one word or phrase because it was so many things. It was a year of self-reflection, change, tragedy, justice, and most of all, it was a year of empathy. And although it sucked in many ways, I'm so grateful I was able to live through these historical moments in time.